In this video, I'm going to go over the positional details about the supine position, which is part of series 1 of the Deep Core Reconnect method. In the following videos, I'm going to cover how to connect with each component of the deep core to support your spine in a neutral position while you're in this pose. For this, you may want to grab a couple props, maybe a pillow, a towel roll, like a washcloth or a hand towel, and then potentially something for underneath your legs. What I recommend is after you watch this video, watch diaphragmatic breathing and then the reconnect to the pelvic floor muscles in this pose and then reconnect to TA are pretty interchangeable. You can watch one or the other. It doesn't matter the order. So this pose is the foundation of many other poses where you're symmetrical, meaning you're not asymmetric with your arm positioning or your leg positioning. And it is one of the easier poses to work on reconnecting with the deep core because it is in a gravity lessened position. But I do find it can be challenging because it's almost sometimes too easy. So play around with it, but the next position, so if I flipped myself lying on my back, flip myself up to standing, it should be the exact same. The only thing is, with on the floor, I have the ground supporting me, whereas at standing, the only part of my body that's in contact with the ground are my feet. So there's a lot more joints that I'm controlling. But the way I coach you through positioning and the mechanics of the pose, it should be the same, just a little bit easier because you don't have as much to control. So you're gonna lie on your back. And what we want is we want neutral alignment from head to toe. So my ankle, my knee, my hip, my shoulder, and my ear are in alignment. And the floor helps me get there. If I had just delivered a baby or I had my posture is a certain way where my ribs are flared like this, or just anatomy of my breast size and such, I might need to put a pillow underneath the top half of my shoulders along with my head so that my pelvis is more in line with my ribs. But ultimately, we want to be able to control that with our muscles. But as you get started, in your focus is, you don't have the ability to focus on a ton of things, the props are helpful. So in this position, I'm going to tuck my chin or think about growing long from the crown of my head to get my neck in a neutral alignment. I'm going to open my chest to create space so that my shoulders aren't rounded. And I'm almost like, I'm not pulling my shoulder blades down and back, but I'm just opening my chest and slightly tipping my shoulder blades backwards so that I'm not here. From my lower half, we're going to get into the core components shortly, but I want to make sure that you are not too flat but not too arched. And one way to find where your neutral is to lift your tailbone, then round your back or tuck your tailbone, and without any mind of how you're doing that until you find a middle ground. So I still have space between my low back and the ground. Then from there, I want my hips in neutral extension. So they're not bent and they're just in neutral extension, 0 degrees. My knees are straight, but not hyperextended. So, yeah, you don't want to have your knee reverse bent or hyperextended. And then turning the hips so the toes face towards the ceiling. Unless you know you have something weird with your hips, that's a general guide. Now to keep your hips in extension, you're going to gently squeeze your glutes. Now as you do that, you want to make sure that when you squeeze your glutes, there's no movement in your lower back. It doesn't change its position. It doesn't round and it doesn't arch. That's a common mistake people make when they squeeze their glutes. They actually squeeze their glutes to stabilize their spine, which is problematic for control stabilization of the hip. From there, so it's not a huge contraction, it's just connecting there. I'm gonna tighten my quads gently to keep my knee in extension. And as I do that, I feel that in the front, feel muscle heat or muscle action there. And here I am in the supine position. Chest open, neck long, and I'm ready to go. Now, I don't always want you to squeeze your quads and glutes, but I just wanted to make that differentiation when, for any exercises that are included in any of the sub-series that you are rocking your pelvis at all. We don't want that with the glutes unless it's a more enhanced contraction to aid the abdominals after the abdominals have connected. So this is the general supine pose. When we do breathing, we're gonna stay in this position. When we're connecting with the TA, we're gonna stay in this position, and same thing with the pelvic floor. I think you have the most wiggle room of ignoring your quads and your glutes for now, at least in the beginning, and then that might be relevant down the road. If you have any questions, please comment below. Otherwise, check out the next video, reconnecting with the diaphragm in the supine pose, and then check out TA and pelvic floor after that.